TC, Spiritual Shepherd. Welcome back to the channel, guys. Today we are talking about stay devoted or you will be demoted. Now, I have a story that I really want to tell you guys that is in conjunction with this type of cliche saying that I've made up. But ultimately, stay consistent, stay persistent, continuously do things over and over. Sometimes they're boring. Sometimes, do the discipline. Continuously do the discipline. Be persistent, be consistent. Okay, so this story, it's about the LA Dodgers. So it's about Jackie Robinson. And it's about Pee Wee Reese. Okay, so very interesting. Now, Pee Wee Reese, he was not a starting shortstop. Okay, there was somebody who was before him. And this person one day didn't show up. Or showed up late, showed up probably either drunked up or drugged up or high or something, okay? Now, Pee Wee Reese was offered that position because he was the second string, okay? He was the second string. He was not supposed to play. He rode the bench. That's really what he did. And ultimately, in this lesson, okay, this is a lesson learned. He ended up doing so well in that one game, that the other person became the second string, and he took their spot forever. They forever rode the bench. 100%. Because the problem with this is that person got too fucking comfortable, too entitled, too about themselves, too selfish, too self-sabotaging. They thought they were too good for people. They thought they were too good to show up on time. They thought they were too good to show up for other people, for themselves. All these types of lessons. Okay, next is Jackie Robinson. Consistency and persistency. You guys have seen these different types of lifestyles from Jackie Robinson. And one specifically is that he was consistent. He was persistent. He showed up every single day. He did exactly what they told him to do because it was reinstituting a new type of paradigm to the normal. Okay. And that's really the big thing in this lesson, that the consistency and the persistency, he didn't change up. He didn't just be like, oh, I'm going to act this way this time now, or I'm going to act this way. As much as he might have wanted to, as much as they might have deserved it, he also didn't do that because there was a grander scope. There was a grander scope of practice, a grander scope of perception that was being, transformed and transmuted and ultimately unveiled to, the public. And that was the true mission. That was the true vision. It wasn't just to get mad at this one person that you are most deserving to get mad at, okay? But don't get mad at that one person and know there's 50 million people like them, and that's the person you're taking on. So you can really see the strength, the passion, the fortitude. You could see the spirit. You could see the wholeness, the holiness of this man who is really, standing up to bigger things. David versus Goliath. It's the David versus Goliath, perception and perspective on this whole, grandiose thing that's going on. So I want you to understand that there are those two lessons, guys. It is you will feel like you're facing something, and you very well might be truly facing something that is big. Okay, very, very big. You might not even know the true size of it, but you know that you can conquer it. Okay, one of the beings that I resonate with is David. Okay, King David. I like King Solomon, King David. Obviously Yeshua. So the Lion of the tribe of Judah, that is ultimately represented as David. Okay, now which is right here. Okay, a man after God's own heart. Okay, and then the one who comes from what? The Lion of the tribe of Judah. Okay, from the Lion of the tribe of Judah. So that is a big cultivation. Okay, so now let's really get into this, guys. You might be facing something big. You might be facing something huge, but that does not mean that you cannot conquer it. Be consistent, be persistent, and a lot of those things are based in small wins, and those small wins lead to bigger wins. Okay, so Spartacus. If you guys have ever seen Spartacus or ever heard of Spartacus, this started as a band full of rebels. Ultimately, they were slaves. They ended up rebelling against the Roman government. Okay, and they were the third wave of banned rebels. And so ultimately what they did was they decided to, they rebelled, and, you know, they decided to do the whole house, like slaughter the whole entire house to be free. And then they decided to be on the run. They would rather be on the run than be where they were at. They ended up completing their task, and the lead warriors, the lead gladiators, the slaves who would fight in the games for the Colosseum, ultimately they started a whole band of warriors and started collecting and they would start to free all of these different types of houses. And eventually it got so big that they literally could have taken over Rome. 100%. It was in their duty. It was like literally they're going to 100% just eradicate and conquer Rome. It was like their purpose and their duty. Okay, and so one big lesson in this is that they started off very small. Rome is this huge, giant egregore. It's this huge shadow, self, this huge shadow unconscious self. It's a very huge big brother type of vibe, okay? And so generally when they show up and they start building their forces, eventually they could overrun them. Now, there was this man named Marcus Crassus, which I also admire. He was a Roman, but I do admire him. He was significantly different than other Romans, and he respected Spartacus as a human, and he stopped looking at him as a slave. He stopped looking at him as somebody who is beneath him, somebody who is to be beneath him. Just because he was either born Roman, or just because he was born wealthy, or just because he was, born a certain way, or trained a certain way, programmed a certain way. And so he started taking training. I actually talked about this in another video. He took training from a gladiator slave, and he actually offered the gladiator slave their freedom if the gladiator slave could slay Marcus Crassus. Marcus Crassus is one of the, he was one of the Roman leaders. Obviously, he had his own problems, but in some ways I do admire him in certain aspects. Okay, so that is one big lesson. The Pee Wee Reese lesson is also too that if you don't show up, there's somebody else who is showing up. And so you have to be the one who's always showing up, as well as be the one who, if someone doesn't show up, this is also the lesson. If someone doesn't show up and you take their spot, make sure you do it better than they would if they were in your position right there. That is a big way to kind of stair step. And I'm not saying that it's capitalistic, competitive, stuff like this. Obviously, there's that own type of thing. But I think that you should really genuinely compete with yourself. And a lot of people just don't genuinely do this inherently. A lot of people are competing with others, but then can't compete with others. What I mean is that like you could see yourself in others and then compete with your old self in others as you renew yourself internally, as you renew yourself with your intuitive capability, your implementation, your integration, okay? How you are living inside of yourself, how you are implementing and insinuating and implying, how are you, living intuitively? How are you receiving life? How are you interpreting things? How are you integrating things? Okay. Now, integrity is integration. Integrity is integration. Most people cannot learn integrity and truly what is integrity unless they are integrated. Okay. So I remember speaking this on a video, but ultimately, guys, you have already done a lot of bad things. So it's not that you have to continuously do bad things either to receive attention or to do bad things because you have to continuously go down the shadow aspect before you can, you have to have this miraculous hero's journey. I had that delusion in my head too when I was younger, like, oh, I just have to do my own thing and I have to do this, which is fine. I mean, honestly, I still have that aspect, but it's more positive now. It's more positive in this day and age now that I cultivate that to the betterment of my ability. Like, oh, I do stand apart from a lot of people. I am set apart from the world. I am set apart from the normal. I am set apart from, I'm an original being. I know who I am. I'm an autonomous being. So a lot of things like this. So make sure you're showing up for yourself. Make sure that you're consistent. Make sure that you're persistent. Make sure that you're disciplined in your ritualistic disciplines. Oh my gosh, now we're just rapping. All positive though. So make sure that you are disciplined in your disciplines, in your ritualistic disciplines. What is a ritualistic discipline? I'm not going to get too much into this because this is in my business, but ultimately it's just a set of routines and rituals that you build to cultivate your life, and it simplifies your life. It simplifies your life, and it sets up your life like, oh, everything's perfect ultimately. Okay, so stay consistent in your discipline, in your ritualistic disciplines, waking up early. The early wake up time. Wake up early. Wake up early. You must wake up early. You must wake up early. Okay, early to bed, early to rise. Okay, early to bed, early to rise. That is a very good mantra. Okay, that is one thing that I'm working on by getting out of cheesecake, because I know right when I get out of cheesecake, the 3:30 mornings are easy to me. Easy. I mean, they're already relatively easy because they're ingrained in my brain, but they'll be easier. So then there is the make sure that you show up for yourself. Make sure that you show up for others. You're not too selfish. You are humble, but not humiliated, but you are humble. Okay. Now I want you to also have confidence, have a humble confidence, not an arrogance. That's another big thing. Another thing is when you do show up, make sure that if someone doesn't show up and you take their spot, that you do it better than they generally would. Okay, for the all and for yourself. Okay, and then also the David and Goliath. Okay, David versus Goliath. David slay Goliath. Okay, now in this is most people do not have a style like we do. Okay, most people do not have a style like we do. So make sure that when you slay that giant, you slay it right. You slay it right. You slay it right. Make sure, because they do not have a style like we do. And the whole thing about this is that you show up as that true being, as the authentic, autonomous, original, aboriginal being that you are. And in this, you could cultivate your training, your mentality, your emotionality, your compassion, your empathy, your spirituality, your love. You could cultivate all of this type of stuff. And this is integration, and being integrated is integrity. You have to integrate ways of living. You have to integrate discipline so then you can be a disciple and you can have integrity. Okay? That's pretty much it, guys. Check out all the links in the description. Peace, much love, namaste. This is literally being devoted. Be devoted or you get demoted. Okay? Be devoted or you get demoted, because if you are not persistent, you're not consistent, you're not doing any of these different types of things, and you're not staying focused, somebody else is going to take your spot, and then you might be riding the bench. So that's the whole thing. And it's also be irreplaceable. Be irreplaceable. Be so irreplaceable that I literally cannot find somebody like this. But the thing is this taps into rareness. If you guys are interested, check out everything in the description. Peace, much love, namaste. Talk to you guys soon.